morning, I'm Joshua Kitts, the designer of Simple Superheroes, the role-playing game of infinite powers and possibilities, and today I'm going to walk you through an example character creation. Now, if you haven't ever done so, I encourage you to go over to composedreamgames.com, go to our downloads page, and take a look at the heart of Simple Superheroes. Now, that gives you a walkthrough of character creation and all the basic rules in 4 pages. So I encourage you to do that. But today, we're going to talk about Eagle Man. Now, when you're creating a character in Simple Superheroes, it should feel a lot like brainstorming. And one of the first things that you want to do is come up with a concept. So our concept is Eagle Man. That's a fairly straightforward concept. We all get an idea of what his powers are just from his name. He can fly around, he probably has claws, and really good sight. So those are the sort of things we're going to be talking about. Fairly straightforward. So the second thing you do is you pick a talent array, and for Eagle Man I'm going to use the well-rounded array, which gives him the most number of talents, but not of the highest rank. So he gets 1 4, 3 3s, and 4 2s. Now, the rank is actually the number of dice you get to roll. It also says something about how powerful your talent is. So 4 is when you get into really superhuman stuff. 3 is very, very impressive, and normal people definitely can't do that. And 2 is Olympic level, or very high professional skill. So you grab a talent, you give it a name, and you put it in an ability category. All the ability categories are over here. There's 6 of them, and you give it an intent. And this helps to frame the talent so that both you and the game master you're playing with can both understand what you mean by the talent that you're defining. And there should be a bit of conversation about most of the talents on your sheet as well with your GM. So without further ado, let's talk about some of Eagle Man's talents. So I'm going to give him a rank 3 claws talent, and I'm going to make that offensive. That's going to be his primary attack. And I'm going to give him another claws related talent, which is in might. Now, I put it in accuracy because it's primarily about striking well and precisely. But I'm going to give him one in might, which is actually functional claws, which is about cutting through thick substances. He can probably cut through glass pretty easily with this talent, and other thick substances. So I've used a 3 and a 2. And obviously Eagle Man can also fly, so I'm going to give him a flight speed talent. Now, with just a single flight related talent, because talents are meant to be very narrow, he's pretty much a bullet and can't maneuver very well at all. So more talents related to flight will give him more flexibility. So I'm going to give him a couple more flight talents. One is going to be aerial agility, which is going to be defensive. And I'm going to give him a might talent because it's about lifting people. Save the falling. This says that he can catch somebody when they're falling, and this is actually reactive. Now, reactive talents, in terms of intent, are a little different from most of your other talents. They're really about other people, primarily, or they respond to a very, very specific trigger. So in this case, a person is falling. Eagle Man instantly reacts to dive down and catch them using this talent. So in some ways, for this particular case, this is actually a defensive trait that works for other people. Okay, let's move on. We've got another couple 2s marked off, and we have a couple 3s and a 2 left. So I'm going to give him a rank 3 monstrous energy talent. And that's functional. This is kind of a special class of talent that boosts his strain points. So everybody normally starts with 6 and 6, but because Eagle Man has this monstrous energy talent, he's going to get 8. This is going to boost it by 2, everybody's always considered having a 1 in everything. So you pretty much always roll 1 die for anything, and everybody would have a 1, so it doesn't bring it up. Now, the 8 actually also goes down to -8, and he gets to roll an 8-sided die to stay conscious. Strain points are fairly tightly connected to relations and values, and we'll talk about that later. But you can spend them to gain extra dice, do fancy things, push your powers beyond what you could normally do, recover life points, and so forth. Now, it is also possible to have your strain points damaged. If you're running a marathon or something, you probably take some strain points because it's all about, your will to press on and so forth. And there might be some offensive talents from other opponents that could damage your strain points rather than your life points. Okay, so Eagle Man also has an Eagle Eye talent, so he can see extremely precisely from extremely far away, and he can roll this to spot things and just narratively see things that he never would be otherwise. So I have one more, and I'm thinking I'll put it in Brains. Now, one thing to note is Eagle Man has only 1 offensive talent and only 1 defensive talent, so that makes him pretty light. He's really all about the utilities. But I'm going to keep up with that, and I'm going to give him police contacts. Now, of course, characters develop fairly quickly in Simple Superheroes, and you can add in talents and have your character grow. So with a police contacts talent, it's really kind of a social talent. He can get extra information on a case by calling up a police contact that he might have. He could probably also roll this to have a friendly police officer show up at a crime scene that he might be at. So after we've got all of our talents, which we do, the GM assigns Superpower Finesse. And for Eagle Man, that's very straightforward. Superpower Finesse is generally a measure of your related talents. He has 3 flight talents, so he gets 3 flight. And this says that, yes, Eagle Man is a pretty skilled flyer. He's fairly flexible with it. And if he wants to do something that doesn't really fit in these talents with his flight, he could possibly roll that if you spend the strain point. So he also obviously has 2 claw talents, so we're going to give him a rank 2 claws. This rank does cap at the highest level talent in your power set. So if he had 5 flight talents, but they were all 4 or below, his rank would still be 4 for flight. Okay, let's talk about relations. So relations are people, places, things that tie your character into the universe, and with a a well-rounded array, you get a 3, a 2, and a 1. So the higher rank, the more you care about it. So he has a cousin named Detective O'Leary. Okay, on again. Oh, and the detective is his cousin. An on again, off again girlfriend named Harriet. And he really likes flying around. Now, the last thing we do for a character in Simple Superheroes is we give him a weakness. There aren't any hard and fast rules about weaknesses in Simple Superheroes, but everyone should have one, and it's kind of up to the player exactly how bad it is, and to the GM how much he wants to pick on that weakness. So for Eagle Man, we're actually going to take a disadvantage that I'm going to call monstrous appearance. So Eagle Man was genetically altered by Adracus, Professor Adracus, and has these giant wings coming out of his back and misshapen claws for hands. So it's very difficult for him to appear in many social settings for obvious reasons. So that's pretty much your character and the character creation process. If you're curious about how the die mechanics work, I have a separate mechanics video that's going to be put up very shortly. and I'm going to be doing another character example of a more complex character. Now, the key book to get to be able to run a simple superheroes role-playing game is Issue 0, which gives you lots of guidance and outlines this framework that we're using to create characters in great detail. So please consider picking that up. Thank you for listening, and good gaming.